Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely true.
And they went up. So when you take a look at the map of Palestine or Israel, you know, I think that...
They went from... Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering here where Bethany is, or Bethlehem is exactly here from Jerusalem.
It's always uphill to Jerusalem from everywhere, whether you're coming from the south or the north. Mm-hmm. But when they went to, according to what I understand in the text, when they went to Bethlehem, they went from Nazareth of Galilee, which is to the north, and I'd have to see a topography. I have got some topography maps at home on that territory, and I don't think I brought it. I've got my Thompson.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
Jerusalem to where?
To Bethlehem.
Does that have topography?
There? Jerusalem there.
Okay, so Bethlehem is south of Jerusalem.
Yeah, but it's uphill to Jerusalem also.
Mm-hmm.
So Bethlehem is, so it would...
Bethlehem would be downhill then from Jerusalem.
Yes, it would be.
And going south.
Yes.
Well, that might be how, when we refer to people going south with the money in this country, you see, they go to Mexico with it.
Yeah, they do.
Well,
there's some other South American countries.
Maybe that's what's going on here. Because maybe that's what was happening in Vietnam here, and our military was supporting South Vietnam.
Sure, because the capital was always in Hanoi, not in Saigon.
Yeah.
We were establishing another government, in essence, a counterfeit or pirate or mirror image government or something.
Mm-hmm.
Straw government.
So, administratively, they got the opposite results. I don't know whether they tried to do it through the special forces of the military, or, you see, when our military gets deployed into that jurisdiction here, that would be foreign deployment. Foreign deployment, you see, is not posse comitatus. So it couldn't have been, because posse comitatus would all be reserve, special forces. But it would be special forces under the reserves, not under the National Guard. Because National Guard are foreign deployed troops. Because the reserve units of this country here are disposed here for internal security.
The reserves are for internal security.
Yeah,
the National Guard is for foreign deployment. Okay.
Yeah, National Guards here are foreign deployed. Okay. But see, when you're using those terms, you have to use those terms in respect to it being an international scene. So you see, it has to be internal or external, which would be public or private. See, because there are all the states of the world here are states of the United States and an international government. And that was all created in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Bank, because it created all international stock markets. So anybody that was investing in any international market that was a company that was feeding Hitler secretly. Nobody knew here where these companies here were actually selling their goods. And so it was all secret here when the German government here was paying them all this money. So these companies that were making money at that time were probably supporting Hitler, and everybody in this country here was investing in it.
Yes, they were.
So, you know, they can holler all they want. But they were actually financing Hitler's
war machine.
Yeah, fascist government here. And if they read the book The Prince, which I understand,
Machiavelli.
Yeah, Machiavelli's Prince, that's, I understand, is required reading for all members of Congress now.
Oh,
you'd be surprised.
So if that's the case, you see, now they learn here that to maintain military or political power is by murder and extortion, period, which gives them their military power or their political power.
that meets with all the criteria that I've read, or that fits the last 2,000 years plus of the secret orders and the secret rights of all these different organizations.
Basically,
Yeah.
the phrase state was coined.
Yeah, okay. Now, somebody mentioned the Masons, and I'm sure that the so-called secret orders of the Masons here would be in respect to them being able to personally view the public side and also the private side of things. And when they reach the 33rd level, you see, this has to do with the Federal Reserve being the reserve requirements, because in the Federal Reserve Board of Governors report, on the Federal Reserve and the actual mechanical operation of it, they gave an example in there. And I don't know here who all has gotten these. I put these out from time to time. But what it did, it laid out the actual function of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. And the first example they gave here was a 15% reserve requirement based on a $100 deposit. Okay? And on a 15% reserve, how much money can you loan out?
85.
The bank, 85%. But how much is that?
It's 96 times or something like that.
Well, no, it's $85. 15% of that 100, you'd hold it on deposit. You loan out the 85. But then the 85 here is redeposited again, and then you hold 15% of that and loan out 85% of the 85, and until you wind up with zero.
It's a lot of times. Yeah.
Okay, how much is that you can loan out?
I believe it was 666. I've heard this discussion.
Oh, $666 on $100.
Yeah. Okay, then they give an example of 20%. That's basically the commodities market. Because what do you got to have? You got to have 20% down to own the contract. You own both sides of it then. Okay? But why is that? Because it represents commodities. Okay? So with a 20% reserve, how much money here can be derived?
US. Oh my.
This is the very reason that they had to pass the Federal Reserve Act. Because now, with the 15%, you see, the reserve requirements, they can loan out this much, and this here is the money that they made available for capitalization. Okay? Can you see that okay?
I can
When I move, okay, I'll try and move back and
I've
forth.
got it, I've got it.
You've got it down, okay. So then, so when we invest in whatever your enterprise is, it takes $666 to create $500 worth of commodity. Okay? That's why they had to take gold and silver out of circulation, because of this very discrepancy. And just to make things short here a little bit, let's take the spread between here and here. It's probably the spread between wholesale and retail, but that's the wilderness. Israel in the wilderness. Until you fix the interest rates. See, and then you have to have a witness as to how much interest here so you can cover the spread. You got to bring the principal on. Who knows where that is? Okay?
Did you guys bring up my water, Jed?
We'll get out of here. We'll cut it off here. Okay. So you see what's happening here. They had to come up with HDR 192, and they had to take gold and silver as coin money out of circulation. Why? Because of this. Because if you took all your gold and silver and sold it, you only got $500 here to pay off a $666 debt. So if you sell it, now you don't have the money, and now you're still in debt $166.
Yeah. That's a
So what has to happen? We have a 10% system. And now is probably when we get interested here in the Masons. Because with a 10% system, how much money can you borrow? How much money can they loan out here on this $100?
It's a bigger amount.
It's obviously more than 666.
Yeah, they can raise $1,000.
Oh my.
Less than
Okay?
less than
But you see, now you've got enough money to pay off 666.
Yeah.
Okay?
Not upside down.
6, 6, 6. But you see, now where are we going to get the original monies?
From the principal.
Yeah, well, you see, from the reserve. So what are the reserve requirements? Well, you see, in that particular text here that I got this from, they give a 4 and a 7% in there, and it all goes down into like your regions and your districts and stuff here, to where the banking requirements here had to hold certain percentages of reserves, certain banks. Well, when you added them all together, guess how much it came up to? 33%. Well, 33% of 1,000 is what?
666.
No,
Oh,
Oh, 333. Right.
330. 33% is $330.
Right.
See, it's not a third. See, it's 33%.
Which would
That is not 1/3.
It'd have to be 33.3333 would be a third.
Okay, so now you got 6, 9, 9. So you see you've got 0.4% left over. Okay, so now we got a surplus. So you see now we have enough money to pay off the debt. The capital debt. We have enough money to pay off the capital debt, but we also have to put up the reserves privately. See, when it goes above 33% here, then these guys in the public here go out of sight. See, it's inverted. So, you see? Okay. So now, with the $330 here that we're providing the Federal International Monetary Fund with, you see, now we have the money to pay off the original capital.
All because
Yeah.
public policy.
Yeah, you see, and this is why they had to bring on HCR 192, is to prevent the public from continuing on, increasing and just relying on this, and then forcing people here to, and then when they foreclose on this, leaving you with a balance in there that you couldn't pay unless you go into the 10% bond. 90% of your possession is 90% ownership. 90, well, if you got possession here, then you see you go in and finance the bond. All you're doing is getting a witness to say, yeah, that's mine. But, and not only that, you see everybody hollers about the encroaching here on your neighbor's property. But you see, so they keep expanding the debt and expanding the debt and expanding the debt, and they never pay anybody because that always winds up in a zero balance because it's a replevin bond. Debits equal to credits. But once you have that under the 10% bond, you see, you also have enough money written into the Federal Reserve System so that they can expand the money supply without coveting your neighbor's property. It's right within the system itself.
This is the accrual?
The accrual, yeah. It's not a cash balance here, it's an accrual.
But this information was pretty much kept from us understanding.
Yeah.
So it was only to the benefit of a few, in essence, and we've been basically kept out of the loop.
Yeah.
Oh,
Until,
for sure.
you gonna cut it off?
No,
No, he's just saying.
Oh, okay.
He's silly with that.
Yeah.
My sacred teachers wouldn't do that.
Okay, so this is one reason there when they, if you are tendering cash money, they say, well, we can't take cash. This is what they're telling you. They're telling you here that this is balanced at zero. And now we've talked about it. I've used the word zero so much out of habit, I'm not even sure that's right.
Oh,
Because it could be, it's probably O.
like Omega?
Like no on, noon.
That's double O.
Yeah, but O represents Omega. It's the last letter of the Greek alphabet. There's beginning and the end.
Yes, I know. So you see, O is probably the solution because or
Oh my gosh, lives. Oh, lives.
yeah. Well, when I figured that the reason that was probably the what it really was when I was looking into the protocols or protoplasm, and when in the protoplasm of an egg you have a plasmid. And when you apply certain enzymes to the plasmid, it splices in to the DNA and the RNA. The splice here of the chromosome or the genes, which carry the blueprint here for the reproduction. And it's spliced into the plasmid, and that's where, you know, the life here now is carried on into the new issue. And it's coming out of protoplasm here, and how do all of these agencies operate? The rules here that they operate under? It's the rules of protocol. Those are international canon law that govern them. I mean, they, yeah.
All around the world, it's the same procedure in essence.
Yeah.
I think they even have an office of protocol.
They do. Vatican does.
Oh, sure.
The Vatican has an office of protocol.
Mm-hmm.
The
So
O
it's
wouldn't come under the information part of the collector now, because
The what now?
the O is part of the alphabet also, right?
Yeah, but which alphabet? Is it the Greek or English?
I don't know,
It's
but
probably both.
Yeah.
we're saying that the collector is just gathering information, he's not collecting money, he's collecting
He's
information.
collecting information, yeah. And the information is in the plasmid or in the O. And you see, when it's talking about the Mount of Olives here, you're talking about the mountain of debt.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody that raises olives in this state here that doesn't have debt? Or any state, for that matter.
Extend the olive branch.
Anybody who's got a business has got debt nowadays.
Yeah. And who was it? Where was it? I was listening to something and somebody was saying here that, it was on TV. I don't know if it was on The Millionaire or what it was. And they were asking, what was the first thing that was released here from the Noah's Ark?
The dove.
Well, no. The raven, he said, went before the dove.
That's right.
So what does a raven do? It steals stuff.
It's a scavenger, it goes around.
And it brings it back to its nest, doesn't it?
Yes.
And that was the first thing released, was the raven, to steal things and bring it back to the escrow, the crow's nest. Must have been a pirate ship.
Oh.
Noah must have been a buccaneer, huh?
Well, he was if he founded the Minoan civilization on Crete, which is the oldest civilization on the planet. I've been there.
Yeah?
And a friend of mine pointed out to me that Minoan stands for Noah, and they were the buccaneers of the sea. They were the main guys of commerce in the world.
Yeah, okay.
That was Noah.
Yeah.
And it was a ship, the whole island of Crete is just, there's harbors around it, and that's where they would have had ships docked.
And of course, none of the buccaneers here, they didn't carry a double-edged sword. Single edge. Cutlass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the double edge here is that of the sovereign.
Cuts both ways.
Yeah. So,
That's why the Bible is called the sword of the Spirit, and it's a double-edged sword.
okay, yeah. But you
Ephesians
see,
chapter 6.
okay, but now you need to determine which soldiers here are of the land and which ones are of the sea. Because the soldiers carried the sword, and I think the New Testament's definition of those here of the sea here were carrying the spears.
The centurion.
So you see, when the body of Christ was pierced here, it was pierced here by a maritime soldier who was carrying a spear.
It was a Roman soldier who had been maritime, yes.
Yeah, and Roman here being municipal.
Right.
Now, municipal funds here being issued to banks in the first instant here would be actually the first death we're talking about, or first execution. And then there is redemption from that. You know, repentance, repent,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
repentagon. And from the second death here, that there is no recovery.
Yeah.
Those are the surplus bonds held by the banks, which are U.S. Treasuries. Insurance, or greater Fresno, or greater Sacramento. See? The Great Bond, Great Britain. It's horizontal here. Interest is moving in time now. So it's only a matter of time until they have to release their grip. And I think actually what they did on this election coming up, or that's passed now, I think that they geared all of their interest to terminate here at the end of the year. Because they didn't have any more, they couldn't leverage it any farther.
That would explain why the one day that Alan Greenspan lowered the Fed discount rate by 0.5% spurred a move on both markets, but on Friday, all three markets, Standard & Poor's 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow all fell again. And that was only the day after it had gone up.
Yeah.
That's the today, isn't it?
They could, was that?
Today's Friday.
Oh, that's right, yesterday, I don't know what it's done today.
Yesterday, it just
It dropped. Well,
pulled around, it didn't drop much.
No, the
40 or
close.
50 points.
I was on the computer at midnight last night.
This morning it was down early 140.
Well, the Dow,
Yeah, Dow and the NAD both. were
Both?
down.
you're right, Roger, they can't sustain it. And this would explain your concept of nuclear fission turning into nuclear fusion with the return of the energy back to the nucleus.
Yeah, that's the only place here that it can be housed here without any damage. That's why they had to drop the bomb on Nagasaki here in that 72-hour period here. Otherwise, here they'd have probably triggered a chain reaction in just in the world here, wherever there was air, not in space, but I think it would have been just in our environment. And so, because the bomb on Hiroshima here was nuclear fission, and the one they dropped on Nagasaki here was nuclear fusion, hydrogen.
It was a hydrogen bomb?
Oh
Was that
yeah,
bomb?
well sure, that's what fusion is.
Right.
You see?
Well, that explains the going out and then the returning when
Right,
you see
right.
the
One of
tests
them
out in the desert.
One of them is expansion,
Right.
the other is contraction.
And we always thought they were the same, A-bomb.
Oh no, no.
No, there were three different
No,
bombs.
one of them, the first one here was called Little Boy,
Yeah.
and that was a uranium explosion.
Yeah.
And the other one was called Fat Man, which was fusion,
Oh my.
which was hydrogen.
Oh.
And that's a return back to the nucleus. The sheep were scattered around the world, and now they're returning. Isn't that why we count sheep here when we're trying to go to sleep? It's in the darkness here, they're hopping over the fence. They're either coming back home or they're leaving.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Wow. Wow.
Isn't that the funds here the banks are dealing with on these overnight loans? Aren't they hopping over the fence?
Oh, yeah. So that stuff is all done in the dark. That's why they're condemned for being children of
Darkness.
darkness.
God calls us his sheep, and they're counting sheep.
That's right.
Mhm.
They've been counting us.
Yeah.
That's why they don't kill all of us. They've been using us.
If they can't use this insurance money other than to fix things,
Yep.
you say they spent the first debt,
Mm-hmm.
that's the money they gathered from the principals, I suppose.
Yeah, that was the municipal bond
It's
issues.
a bond, now say, if in fact that's gone, the only way they can keep things afloat is by fixing earthquake and.
Well, they're trying to keep them afloat. They're trying to create these national disasters and one thing and another, but see what these are equivalent to lifeboats created by the public to float that much debt here. They still can't redeem it. That is energy that is floating here out around in waterless places looking for a place to land.
Yes.
That's the demon.
Like Kosovo, now they bombed it, now they fix it.
Oh, yeah, but you see, they can't, there's nobody to redeem the debt.
Except for
This is energy that's dangerous to anybody
yeah.
that might be using it. You see? And they thought here that they could, these people that they've got in some of these government positions, they think here that they have the end and the answers, and they don't. Why? Because they have to commit you and I here to the liability.
Right.
Yeah. If they got to go on the hot seat themselves here, they aren't so anxious.
No, they're not.
You see? But that's what it is. It's the energy that's looking for a place to land. But you see, when it comes to the end, like I say, the end of the millennium here, then you see you get a polarity reverse.